I never thought I'd see a day when hay bales crushed a Lexus, but there it was, half buried under a golden mountain. Glass shattered Karen screaming like she'd just witnessed a war crime. And all I could think was, gravity's got a better sense of justice than any HOA board I've ever met. See, this didn't start with hay. It started with a road, an old gravel stretch my family had driven for generations. My grandfather used it to herd cattle, my father hauled grain on it, and I rode my tractor down that same path every morning since I bought back the land after retiring from the Army. That road was history, a piece of my bloodline packed into dirt and stone. But then the developers came carving up the fields into cul-de-sacs and mailboxes, and soon enough came the HOA, and with it, Karen Walker. Her real name was Sharon, but everyone in town called her HOA Karen, like it was an official title. Tall, sharp blonde bob, pearl earrings, SUV polished to a mirror-shine clipboard glued to her hand. She didn't enforce the rules, she lived for them. Noise complaints, paint color violations, lawn height, alerts, you name it. The first time she left a note on my gate about the aesthetic disruption of exposed hay bales, I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the porch. But the laughter stopped when she blocked my road. One morning last fall, I was halfway through my usual route when I saw her SUV parked sideways across the gravel, cutting me off. I stopped, the tractor climbed down, wiped my hands on my jeans. She stepped out like a cop at a crime scene. "You can't use this road anymore," she said flatly. "Excuse me, it's private HOA property now. The board voted last week. You'll have to reroute your operations." I stared at her at that smug half-smile she wore like perfume. "This road's been in use since 1927. It's my family's access to the barn." She tapped her clipboard. "Annexed last year. You must have missed the letter." I watched her drive away, tires crunching the gravel like she owned it. That's when I knew it wasn't about the road. It was about control, and I wasn't about to roll over. I spent the next few nights buried in county records, my father's journals, yellow deeds. Finally, I found it a 1947 easement guaranteeing my right to use that road in perpetuity. Permanent, untouchable. But I didn't show my hand. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. 3 days later, orange cones appeared, private road HOA access only. I moved them aside, drove through, and by sundown a violation notice was stapled to my gate, $250 fine for unauthorized vehicular use. Then $500. Then threats of legal action. The notes kept coming, each one signed President Walker. I tried to keep calm. My daughter Ellie told me to fight back. "Dad, that road's ours," she said. "She can't take it." But the more I fought, the heavier it felt. Neighbors stopped waving. Parents pulled their kids away when I passed. HOA gossip painted me as some grumpy old vet terrorizing the suburbs. I sat at the kitchen table one night holding another violation letter in one hand, black coffee in the other, and asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Maybe she's right. Maybe I don't belong here anymore. That thought stuck like a splinter. For a moment I almost gave in. Maybe sell the place, move somewhere quiet again, away from the nonsense. But then I looked out the window, the barn lights glowing against the dusk, the road stretching out toward the maples, and I remembered why I came back. To rebuild what my father lost. To teach Ellie what roots feel like. That road wasn't just gravel, it was memory. And if Karen wanted a war, she'd just picked the wrong soldier. See, before I came home, I spent 20 years in the Army's JAG Corps. Military attorney. I'd negotiated land rights in war zones. Compared to Afghan tribal councils, a suburban HOA was child's play. I started documenting everything: photos, dates, trail cam footage, every note she left. I filed a formal dispute with the county clerk, attached the 1947 easement, and confirmed it was legally protected. Then I waited. But Karen wasn't done. She blocked the road again this time, with her SUV parked horizontally, daring me to move her. "Move your car," I said. "This is private property," she sneered. "No, it's not. And if you don't move it, I can't stop the hay behind me from doing the job for you." She rolled her eyes, muttering something about calling the sheriff. I turned back toward the tractor, and that's when I heard the snap. One rope, then another. The top layer of bales shifted, leaned, and came tumbling down in slow motion. 70 pounds each rolling straight onto her precious Lexus, glass shattered. Hay exploded across the road like confetti from heaven. She screamed like she'd been hit. "You did that on purpose. You'll go to jail." I stood there calm as a preacher. "Karen, you parked on a slope behind a loaded trailer. That's not a crime. That's gravity." Next morning, Sheriff Daniels showed up, clipboard in hand. "She says you tried to run her over," he sighed. I pulled the trail cam footage clear as daylight. No contact, no speeding, just her blocking the road, me stopping. He watched the clip, closed the laptop, and said, "She's not going to like this, but the road's yours, Frank, always was." I thought that might end it. I was wrong. A week later, I got a cease and desist from her lawyer claiming I was a danger to the community. The HOA tried to suspend my use of machinery altogether. They even printed flyers calling me an unstable veteran. That one hit hard. They were dragging my daughter into it, turning my life into a headline. But then I found something buried in their own bylaws. Section 12. No HOA member shall obstruct access to any prior land easement or agricultural route. Her own rulebook proved me right. That was the crack I needed. When Karen finally sued me for property damage, emotional distress, the whole 9 yards, I didn't hire a lawyer. I dusted off my old briefcase, put on a clean shirt, and walked into that courthouse alone. She arrived in full regalia, designer heels, pearl necklace, young lawyer in tow. He stood up and said, "Your Honor, Mr. Garrison may not be familiar with HOA litigation." I cut him off. "I served 20 years in the Army JAG Corps, specializing in land disputes. I've advised generals in war zones. I think I can handle a neighborhood meeting gone wrong." The room went dead silent. I laid out everything, the easement, the videos, the sheriff's report, even copies of her flyers. Then I read her own bylaws out loud. Section 12. The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "So the HOA itself acknowledged your right-of-way?" "Yes, ma'am. They just hoped no one would notice." Karen's lawyer fumbled through objections. She sat there, pale jaw tight, realizing she'd cornered herself. When the judge finally ruled, her words cut cleaner than any verdict I'd ever heard. "The court finds in favor of Mr. Garrison. The HOA acted outside its authority. All fines are void. The HOA president, Ms. Walker, is removed effective immediately." Karen looked like she'd swallowed glass. I didn't smile. I just gathered my papers and walked out, boots echoing down the hallway. A few days later, her house went up for sale. Word spread fast, neighbors whispering, board members resigning. Turned out I wasn't the only one she'd bullied. Veterans fined for flags, parents for strollers, retirees for garden benches. The whole thing unraveled. I didn't celebrate. I just went home, walked that same gravel road, and felt the ground settle beneath my boots. The air was quiet again, like it had been waiting for this moment to breathe. They say justice is blind, but sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes it falls hard, like a wall of hay collapsing on a shiny car that thought it could block history. And that day I learned something. I'll never forget. You don't have to shout to win. You just have to stand your ground long enough for arrogance to collapse under its own weight.